we established that I can't
We
do
are
like
live.
I'm going to show some of this video of this, Apple, doing
Hello,
the
YouTube.
full full motion, but
Yeah.
we haven't been able to get the audio for the YouTube going through. Like I
Who
haven't
cares
at
about
least.
audio?
Yeah, it's
He
actually you
said
could
on the
probably hardly hear
podcast.
it. Actually, you could probably hardly hear it. It's coming out of a 2E speaker, 6 foot away from the mic. So,
Right.
yeah, I won't worry about audio.
Well, and what it's so, but it's the audio is like sampled from the video that's taken from a movie, right? So we could just drop in the real movie's audio and
Well, that's true.
Can you act it out in interpretive dance?
That would involve a sledgehammer, I think, and a large screen. You'll see. But yeah. Anyway, okay, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
So,
we're great. Look at us.
Proceed.
This is sort of our preparation, kind of.
This is the show.
To what extent that there is. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I attempted to preview it and said, okay, well, we're not going to quite make it by 4, so I'll set it for 4:05, and then we showed up at 4:12 or something. But anyway, I'm still not prepared. Late. That's what it is. Okay.
Right.
Let's see. So, I guess we'll fix everything in post. Yeah, I have I guess I have a couple of. I have more items of interest in news than I intended. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll
see.
Bring it. I am interested in your items of interest.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal this.
But that's not news.
What did I do? I had something and I deleted it. Oh well. Anyway. Okay.
It knows what it did.
Are we ready?
Yeah, I think we are.
Ready as we get.
Okay. It's May 9th, 2021, and welcome to episode 234 of the RetroComputing Roundtable. The RCR is a podcast about retro computer news, nostalgia, collecting, and preparation, I guess. I don't know. Preparation for the... that's a aspirational preparation of some kind. Whatever. Hi. I'm Paul in Boston, and I am joined today by two retro computing enthusiasts. To my clockwise right is... never mind. Going around the screen, I have Blake Patterson from Northern Virginia. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks, Paul. Just have been enjoying the warmer weather and having some retro fun of various varieties, but work has been kind of crazy lately, so it's been pretty patchy as far as time spent on this or that pursuit, but I can't complain. Yep.
Oh,
that's it.
I can. You want to hear me?
Well, I actually could complain, but I won't complain. How about that?
Okay, sounds good. And also joining us is Carrington Vanston in Toronto. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm also trying to do preparation and aspiration, but all I have is combine them into perspiration, I guess. I don't know where we're going with that, but I like it. I like it.
That's good. Yes. I also realized that I skipped something. So I'm Paul Hegstrom in Boston. I was just Paul in Boston for some reason. So we'll see how well that cuts together.
Good luck with that one.
Yep.
How are you doing, Paul?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing all right. That's right. I forgot about that too. The weather has improved. It's been the semester has been ending, and the moving is still kind of happening, and so it doesn't seem like there's been a lot going on. I'll talk at the end about the fact that I've kind of started to array things and try to work out how cable management is going to go and that kind of thing. But yes, at the end. Otherwise, yeah.
I was going to say, for those watching on the YouTube video, hello. It might look outside at the moment that it's snowing here in Toronto, but that's just because my microphone or my camera isn't good enough to pick up the fact that it's just sunny out. It is as surprised as I am that Canada is currently sunny. By Canada, I mean Toronto, but we think of ourselves as the whole country. So
that's right.
It works. Works for me.
So we debated a little bit what the topic would be, and then we decided that actually we're going to sort of proceed with topicless, because we have is it topless? No, it's topicless, I guess. And I mean, it's summer, right? And just since we have interesting items of interest, we will just move straight to those, I guess. And so, without further ado, Blake, what is your first item of interest and/or news?
Okay, right into it. Well, this is something that I first encountered there were some discussions on Slack, and I saw a little demo video here and there. And anyway, what it turned out to be, and it was a little bit hard to to actually believe it was happening looking at what I was seeing. But let me share the display. I see a odd message. Is that sharing fine?
It is.
Mhm.
Well, at least I can see it.
The tab is sharing. Okay. Yes. So what the situation is a project by Chris Kenaway. He actually has been in the Apple Circle for quite a while. He did a Kansas Fest. I'm not sure, Paul, if he's a regular attendee to Kansas Fest. Do you know?
I don't actually.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I see him around the Slack, but
Yeah. Chris gave a speech, a presentation in 2019, I believe, about a project of his called Two Vision, and what it was is a Ethernet video streamer for the Apple II that would stream. It would take pre-prepared video that had been parsed with a certain set of routines and stream them on an Apple II that was using a Ethernet 2 card. I'm not sure if it had to be a GS, or I think actually an enhanced 2E would work as well. But anyway, so he's been around with some interesting offerings. But what I saw, and what I actually posted a blog post to my blog about this morning, is it's a system. It is not so much streaming from a remote source, but for enhanced 128K Apple IIes, which are fitted with a CFFA 3000, the floppy and hard drive or large volume interface or emulator device. No accelerator needed. What it will do is a prepared video that's been run through his routines called 2Pix is the latest iteration of his kind of image to double high res, the Apple II double high res mode screens. It'll create, it'll render a movie frame by frame on screen in double high res, 16 color, full motion. I'm not exactly sure the frame rate, but it's very smooth. And it does this by way of certain, he figured out, reverse engineered certain capabilities of the CFFA 3000, which allowed him to, and in the link we'll show have in the show notes, is a number of different sources of description text that Chris has posted describing how the process works. And he figured out certain tricks or ways to address the CFFA 3000 in such a way that they can, get the most out of the Apple II bus and moving data from it into memory and then showing it on the Apple II double high-res screen, which of course is particularly, everything I've said is impressive, but given the bizarreness of the Apple II's double high-res screen memory map, it's kind of a mind-boggling thing to contemplate. But anyway, so in a demo, and again, this was discussed, there's not really an official page yet from Chris. He said he's in the process of putting together more information, and I believe he'll, put a public release and name this project. But it's kind of been passed around a little bit on a Slack group, and I'd been talking to him back and forth. And again, the details I'm not going to read into these extremely technical bits that he was explaining how the audio is handled in the Apple II's meager speaker system. And yes, there is accompanying digitized audio that goes with the video. But I'll play here for those watching on the YouTube stream. There's a video that is of my. I have an Apple IIe with which meets the spec. It's 128K enhanced Apple IIe, and it has a CFFA 3000, and what's on the screen is one of the demos that Chris shared with his player. It's the 1984 Apple Macintosh commercial, the famous Big Brother commercial, and it's running at what looks like what you'd call full motion. Again, I don't know the frames per second exactly, but it's extremely impressive for an Apple II, and to understand that it's it's doing this playback in 16 colors with audio that you can definitely recognize. I mean, it's certainly a bit tinny and grainy, but the whole thing is very impressive. I didn't, it seems like when I saw it at first, some video demonstrations, I assumed that an accelerator was required or some crazy thing like that, but it's not. And there are a couple of other videos that he himself has put out on YouTube, and they show the unit running on his IIe system, and he has some music videos that are playing. He has the Apple II Forever song, and that kind of thing. So it's quite impressive. I'm anxious to hear more about this. I've got the like I said, I've got a couple of videos. I've got the player. The first demo that I showed, the Apple commercial, I believe that was about 128 megs maybe in size, if I'm not wrong. And it sits on the if you put it on the CF card or USB stick in the CFFA, it's able to read it. So it's a sizable file, but I'm anxious to see where he goes with it, and some sort of actual information that he officially puts publicly, because he hasn't yet done that. But I thought that was kind of amazing, and so that's my big. It's been quite a while since I've wowed to that degree with any of the retro systems that I play with. So
yeah, that is very
good stuff. Yeah, definitely. And he actually he has, in the back and forths on Slack, I mean, he's gone into such detail that I have trouble comprehending it as far as some of the minutia. So I put together what seems to be a good overall. But what a brilliant guy, and it's amazing. So we'll bring it up again here when there's more information on that, when that's a thing that he's released. However he sees fit, and I'll update the blog post with that link. So and I think it could probably it's not that Apple IIc couldn't do this; it simply can't interface with the CFFA 3000. I think it would be capable, but you do need that device. And as I understand it, it will work on a 2GS. I'm not certain about that. I would think that they're similar enough that it should, but that's not something I'm positive of right now.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to just check. So the kind of the critical piece of this is the CFFA 3000, right? The speed of the disk access that it allows.
Yes, I think he mentions that he's able to get something like, is it 500, 600, and about 850K? I think there's two. He corrects himself. I think it's somewhere between 550 to 850K a second across the 1 megahertz Apple II bus, which is an 8-bit bus. I mean, the thing to remember, yes, it requires the CFFA, which is a rather capable device, and he's had to figure out some approaches. Again, this is as I understand it. I don't have the complete. This is just from gleaning from everything he's told me, and a lot of which I don't understand because it's above my level. But he can get between 550 to 850K a second across the bus. He's taking his converter. Basically, it's not so much, as I understand it, that the video is, like any sort of traditional video format that's being played. It's basically a series of Apple's assembly language commands. It's almost like a sort of an unrolled Luna assembly language. It's like execute all of these commands and it renders one frame. As I understand it, that's what's happening. So it's very optimized. But no matter how capable the CFFA 3000 is, obviously, if you're not using an accelerator and you're just using the slow 1 megahertz 8-bit Apple II bus, you can't magically get more data through that bus. So he's basically his input, the data input into that 2E is, say, it's about as good as possibly you could get. So the limitation is the 2E and its CPU and its bus. So that seems to me, I mean, I these kind of things, like a part of the thing that makes them fun to watch and contemplate is sort of how impressive the approach is. And I don't think if it were using an accelerator and somehow it seems like that would be a little less impressive. What's impressive is that he's doing everything he can to get the data in, but nothing else. That's all you can't do anything else to broaden that pipe, and it's amazing what it can do given those constraints.
Yeah, I think I would be sort of interested to see like kind of how it works. But I mean, like the sort of amazing thing about this is that it's the whole screen moving, and it kind of sounds to me from what you said was.
I will say, and I'm sorry to interrupt. This is probably what you're about to say. His system is tracking the changes,
exactly.
The changes in the screen.
That is in fact what I was going to say.
Sorry. I meant to indicate that. Yes, it's tracking changes. So I stole that from you, Paul.
That's right. Well, I was gonna analogize it to like how Graphics Magician can make images small. That instead of storing 2K or 4K or whatever it is, 2K. I don't know, 8192, 8K. Rather than storing that as a chunk, you just say like do this, and that will will take you from where you are to where you need to be. So.
Indeed. It's not as if like the video for the YouTube folks. I showed 2 demonstration videos. There's an additional one on the page that I talked about. They're not like one of them is sort of a cartoony black and white that almost seems like it is set up to be super optimized because you have borders and filled areas. But given that these other videos are just general television style music videos, a lot's changing. It's not requiring in order to execute in such a way that still kind of blows your mind. It doesn't have to be some ideal video with small amounts of motion. Clearly it's able to do a lot without restraint, but.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if I mean, like so we've had a fair amount of advances in video technology, like whatever H.265 and that kind of stuff. Where I wonder if you can sort of bolt this assembly code. Maybe that's what's happening. Bolting the assembly code generator onto one of those, and instead of it's so the X265 algorithm is keeping track of blocks that are changing and like what's changing within them and doing motion prediction and stuff like that. And if you could turn that into just like screen writes that are all LDAs and SDAs, then
I think it's interesting. Those that are interested, I've linked this 2Vision project, which he was able to use much of the core of that. As far as the mechanism, and again, as I understand it, as far as the mechanism of the animation, player, but also, it had its own routines for, some of the video conversion. Chris mentioned that his routines, and I believe he's referring to those back at the 2Vision, project time. Used routines from Bill Buckle's BMP to DHR system, which we've talked about, which on a PC are optimized routines for converting BMP Windows images to double high-res screens. But and this is where again it gets a little hazy, and I think whatever Chris comes out with because he's got these descriptions on these different GitHub pages for different parts of his project code. And the last piece I was about to mention is this 2pix setup 2pix, which is an image conversion utility that seems to be the actual routines in their current form that are used for this project. The relations of all these things are a little bit hazy to me as far as the conversations I've had. But on the GitHub page for the 2pix converter, it's extreme detail that is shared as far as what's happening. I mean, I simply didn't have time to read it. I mean, it's just a very, very lengthy, deep dive into what's happening. So it could be that these questions are answered there, and but the guy is obviously quite a Apple II jockey as far as knowing the ins and outs of some of the nuances of this interesting machine.
Jeremy in the chat pointed out that because it's essentially just a big program that loads just in time and runs, Chris has created the largest Apple II program ever. Probably it's 190 megabytes of machine code.
Okay, yeah. He has. There are a couple of different the videos he handed me in our discussion. Right, so some of them execute on there. It's just a file, and you run it. Basically it executes as is described. There are a couple of other videos that there's a separate player file. I'm not sure, and I gather that this is an older scenario. Leading up to what the current state is. I don't understand what the shift meant. It's just that I know he's had two approaches, and now they seem to be, the file itself, plays as I'm able to determine. But yeah, it's big. They're big. They're very much larger than the Protos volumes. To mount something in Protos, which is 32 megabytes, is the largest volume possible. He has you boot a disk, and I guess the videos that I demonstrated are using the player. Now that I think about it, you boot up a player disk, and then you ask it asks specifically for what slot is your CFFA card in, which logical volume, what order have you mounted this file in, and then it begins. It can't, clearly it's not a standard. It's within the standard sandbox of the CFFA, because you can't, without doing something special to the CFFA in software, you're not going to be able to, deal with more than 32 megabytes, because that would be the standard Protos volume. So again, he's kind of going to the hardware on that CFFA and saying, okay, just like however big it is. And I'm from what I understand, it could just be as big as your card can hold. I mean, it's not as if obviously they're not needing to fit the whole thing in the Apple II's RAM. So yeah, it's I imagine it could get much bigger, but
yeah, and it's kind of cool to, I mean, like we've talked about this repeatedly about sort of using extra capabilities that add-on cards provide, but the CFFA 3000 is pretty widely distributed. Although I mean, like now there's thirst and hunger or whatever since they're done. But yeah, I'm hoping, and we've talked about this as well. I know that there was a number of runs of the CFFA 3000, and people, I know Quinn bought one. She doesn't have a slotted Apple II, but she got it to secure it when the getting's good, and that, as we've said here, can often be the only chance you're going to get some of these things. But there's quite a few of these devices out there, and people that bought them are obviously big in the scene of using them, communicating with other users. But I do hope that it would be nice if one day somehow that device could be picked up again, and manufactured, because even without any sort of modification, it would still be good to have several thousand more available, and I'm sure they would all be sold. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, cool.
Yep, and that's
Very
about all I've got as far as items and interest in news. That was so interesting that I didn't think I could. It would seem folly to attempt to bring a second item in. So,
however, Carrington has one.
Speaking of folly, over to Carrington.
He is advertised as one of the best items of interest and/or news he's ever had.
This is my favorite thing I've ever brought to the show, I think, by far. So I'm sharing a tab, and so the idea here is cast your mind back to the Soviet Union in 1968. So there was an uprising, basically, in Czechoslovakia to say, hey, we want to bring more freedom to the press, maybe have multiple parties, political parties. And the USSR was not keen on that and sent 500,000 Warsaw troops or whatever, occupied all the major cities and said, no. That's not how things run in the USSR. So that was a thing. 20 years later, in 1988, we have a Czechoslovakia still controlled by the USSR. And it's a place where technology hasn't necessarily advanced as it didn't in the East as much as in the West. And so it's difficult to get computers. You can't really legally own a personal computer. But in this scene in Czechoslovakia, you had some people who were, just like everywhere in the world, into computers, had this dream of owning their own computer, wanted to program things. Those kids in 1988 Czechoslovakia were the same as me in 1988 in Canada, wanting the same things. Couldn't really have a computer club, but you could have like another club that happened to talk about computers. And so that's setting the scene for this idea of a game that got created that I'd never heard of before, called Perestroika. In Czech, it's Prestavba. But if we scroll down a bit, we can see in the English translation of it is Perestroika. It stands for Program for Experimental Revolutionary Socialist Tripe by Obvious Illiterates and Kooky Authors. This is the first time I have encountered really an underground game as a means of protest. And it's hilarious. So it's a text adventure game run on the ZX Spectrum. Now, the ZX Spectrum, it turns out, learned a whole bunch of things. This all comes from an ongoing website at the moment called, 50 Years of Text Games. And so every week, the site is examining, it's by a fellow named Aaron Reed, and every week he's examining a different text game, a different text adventure, something like that. This is this week's example. So we've got 1988 Czechoslovakia. In the Czech Republic, you can't really have your own computer. You got to have it smuggled in. ZX Spectrum is a popular model to smuggle in. Why? Because it was already obsolete in Britain, so you could pick up used copies relatively cheaply. But most of all was the size, being basically like a paperback book. It was easy to smuggle. You can put it among sandwiches or whatever and get it. So there's a lot of the Spectrums in the USSR, in Czechoslovakia. And so these people in a group called the Golden Triangle decide to write a text adventure that is a means of protest to celebrate, or to at least mark the 20th anniversary of that 1968 putting down of essentially a kind of coup. So this game is written straightforward, as if it is an up with USSR, the party is everything is great, but it uses satire to kind of get a completely opposite point across. You might, for instance, in the course of this game, come across, here's a picture of Czech Computer Club, but you might come across, say, a lighter. So you see a lighter, death to the imperialist squadrons, because it just throws out slogans all the time. You take the lighter, examine the lighter. Surely something could be set on fire with it. It is a quality made in the USSR lighter. So you try to light the lighter skips. It only works 30% of the time in the code to get across the point of the shoddiness of things made in the USSR. It is funny. It is underground. It is the punkest freaking game I've ever encountered. I love everything about this, and I never knew about this at all. Oh, after the lighter skips, it says glory to the Leninist politics of the party. So the whole thing is amazing. You can come across a toilet bowl. In the bowl, the bowl's dry, so you look in the bowl, you find a book, you take the book, after which it says, for the liberation of the exploited. You examine the book, it's Marx's Capital. So where do you find it? In a toilet. So it doesn't actually come out and say things that are anti-USSR. It only says positive Russian slogans, but it undermines everything about the situation in which this thing was written. I wish I had known about this in the 80s. I love this thing. Just down below this, it talks about digging. You try to dig, you can't be bothered. Like, you're not going to exploit the users. But when you read an editorial, it says you read the editorial in red law, you immediately acquire a taste for work, which is an essential honor for any socialist citizen to do. So you dig, now you can dig because you're inspired by the red law. It's hilarious. It's underground. It's punk. It's amazing. Things I learned from this are, one, the reason why in the East the ZX Spectrum and stuff were popular. I never really considered the fact that it's the size. How do you smuggle in an Apple II? Not only couldn't you afford it, but how would you sneak that past guards? Much easier to pay somebody who's going to the West to bring something back among sandwiches or things. Little computers were the key. But also, the first computer programs that people in the West in these clubs got to see, mostly because you couldn't bring in actual software, were the listings in magazines. And I really understood how the impact of listings in magazines that could be then typed out and distributed would be a way to distribute software where you can't really distribute software. And they talked about the experience. What there was basically the same that I had. You would have a long listing, you would type it all in, it wouldn't work, you would have no idea why. So welcome the East, the West, we were all the same. It also, however, talked about a lot of things brought in on cassette. Because of course, if you're going to smuggle something into the USSR, into Czechoslovakia and its software, it's much easier to hide the fact that it's software by simply putting on a cassette. You write KISS on the one side and Triumph on the other or whatever, and bingo, you're bringing in your Spectrum programs. Whereas if it's a floppy disk, that's much harder to hide what it really is. These are things that never occurred to me before. Just amazing. So this game is available for download. The article is an incredible read. I strongly recommend it, and the whole 50 tech games in 50 years or 50 weeks or whatever the heck the thing is Aaron's doing. It's amazing. There is a book that a lot of this is taken from called Gaming the Iron Curtain. Here, I'll show it on screen. And it's currently available. There's a bunch of places you can buy it. You can get it directly. You can get it on Amazon. You get it all over the place. A really interesting book that deals with this kind of thing. 1980s Czechoslovakia and the rest of the Soviet bloc, and kids who wanted to game and what they would do and how to try to get away with it and all that. It's just, it's an amazing thing. I didn't know about any of these. But it's hilarious. I just love the punk aspect of kind of flipping the bird to the people in charge, and doing it in a way that's really straight-faced. The fellow who made the game was a very accomplished assembly language programmer. But there were very few very accomplished assembly language programmers among the groups for the ZX Spectrum. So he intentionally wrote this game in not very great basic code to hide the fact that it was from him. Because it's when he got it and said, well, look at this assembly code. Yeah, there's 3 kids that could do this. It would narrow it down too much. So he said, like, how about we do uncommented, kind of sloppy basic? Could have been anybody. Who knows? The whole thing is delightful. It's like got spy aspects. It's got a text adventure game. It's thumbing its nose at the authorities. I love everything about it. I'm very excited for these links, and everyone should go off and read the article. It's a delight. So I learned so much.
That is
Sounds
fascinating.
like a very large game.
And the book sounds interesting as well. Gaming the Iron Curtain. I hadn't encountered that before. That's definitely sounds like something I'd like to check out.
It's funny in the chat, somebody says so much for your Carrington's unironic yay socialism comment in the last episode. Everything I say is ironic. I'm down with everything, all forms of everything, including most importantly myself. Down with me, down with Carrington. Carrington must go.
All right. Well, yeah,
I love this thing. That is
very
so punk. Yeah.
I wonder if I will have ever time to try it out.
I 100% am going to seek out this game and play it. Probably going to try to convince Kay to do it for an episode of Eaten by Gru or something, because I'm delighted with the idea of playing an underground anti-USSR game from the 80s in Czechoslovakia. Bring it.
One thing that I didn't quite, that maybe you said and I didn't quite catch, but so how is it that we're seeing these little screenshots? Are they translated by somebody?
Yes, yeah. So somebody, I couldn't find the name of the person, but somebody has translated it from Czech and there's an English version. So they translate the name, and there's an English version of the game floating around, which I don't believe was a period piece. I think it's a recent translation. So that'd be the version I would play, because I barely speak English, let alone other languages.
Right.
Interesting.
Very nice.
Yay for cassettes.
Yeah.
I knew there was something about them I liked. Yeah. They're means of smuggling.
So I sort of feel like I'm not sure that the thing I had to bring up.
Yeah, what do you got? Blake and I are bringing the interesting stuff.
Nevertheless.
And now to Paul, who will follow our lead.
Let's see if I can find the window. This is the window. So I heard about this actually. Well, it was brought up on RetroMacCast, I think a couple of times ago. But this is it is a what is it? What is it actually called? Let me see if I can get the name. It's RetroBridge BBS. So it is essentially a it's a BBS sort of intermediary, that you can sit between your like actual retro Mac and the internet, essentially. So what it does is it's sort of like it sort of queries I think InfoMac and the Macintosh Garden, and presents it to you as if it's like a BBS, and you can like just download things with Z modem, So
that is fantastic.
Really pretty cool.
Huh.
So I mean,
Is
there are other ways to get things to your Mac, but this is a very sort of period accurate way to just like download the wares.
Well, you say that yeah, that is interesting. That actually downloading from via Z modem from websites would allow easier installs in certain situations that I can picture, certainly. But is it, you mentioned, like, for instance, the Macintosh Garden, is this a general thing that you point to a website and it does its best, or this is someone specifically wrote a module, so to speak, for Macintosh Garden, or specifically for the other site you mentioned? Is that right? It's not.
It looks like it's the latter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's not a general. Okay.
Do you not know InfoMac?
No, I didn't. I simply didn't remember what you said. I couldn't remember what you said. Yes, I know InfoMac.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that was figured
I
very
didn't hear you.
prominently in my youth.
I was contemplating something on the side here while you said the second site, InfoMac. Yes, from my youth as well.
What was the other one? Simtel? Maybe that's the same thing. But yeah, so basically it does some sort of translations with stuff at archives and things like that. So because that's also always a big hassle. Like you get something and it's like in some format that you can't quite decompress. It's some self-extracting thing that your architecture can't use or whatever. And so it looks, it's another way to do something. It doesn't seem like it's the simplest way to do something, but I actually kind of think it might in some cases be simpler than all the translations you have to do with your shared volume and all that other junk.
Yeah, I mean, if I picture, like, I have certain machines here, like I can carry, you carry your Wi-Fi, serial to Wi-Fi modem, here to there, like you plug it in. That I have some machines that have no other expansion. There's no no network volume. There's no mass storage. But with this, that machine could access, because it had BBS on these things, and you could be definitely you could actually just download data. I'm extremely interested in this, because that barrier that I'm talking about is like, okay, well, I'd really like to move some data to this, and of course you can do something weird like download the data onto like a Mac or PC, and then use a terminal program to telnet, so to speak, through something into the Mac, and then use SZ to send it. But that's a huge pain. But with this, and where else do you want to go for say like the old Macs, the InfoMac or the Garden? Then it would make it super easy. This is fascinating to me. This really
it's funny that you say that, because when I got my iMac G4, that's exactly what I was doing, downloading stuff on my modern computer, my modern Mac, to that, and then on the iMac G4, telnetting over. And then I realized both of these computers have USB ports. The iMac is not as old as I'm pretending it is, and it's simply just easier to use a thumb drive and move it over. But for an older system that doesn't have USB, a pre-USB computer, just got serial ports or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
This is fantastic. So, I love this.
Yeah.
So is this only for Mac? You mentioned, InfoMac and the Macintosh Garden. So is it only Macintosh based, or are there other sites? You know what I mean? Like,
well, so it is. Like the source is on GitHub. You can take a look at it.
So it could be done. Surely. Yeah. Obviously.
And I think so. It's a communications thing. It doesn't run on the Mac. What runs on the Mac is ZTerm, right?
I understand.
So, presumably it could easily be adapted, but it does have some like stuff at specific things and that kind of
Someone could create obviously there's bridge code or whatever it is in the middle. Like you could take some Atari archive or Commodore archive or Amiga archive, and then work it across, or even I mean, some of the more, we're like a Tandy. For me, I'm looking over at a Model 3. That would be great if there was some kind of a TRS-80 archive and someone, whether it's myself or someone else, put that together, and then you're like, oh well, I download it rather than again, putting it on the PC, because there ain't no USB port as Carrington's aware on that Tandy Model 3.
Yeah, I am aware of that.
So
I have that knowledge.
yes,
we should mention the host. The host itself runs on a PC, ideally running Linux. It looks like it's Python 3 code, so you need something that can run Python 3. So it's kind of set up to be a PC running Linux, and then that acts as the thing that your retro computer is BBSing to, essentially.
Yeah, I assume it could run on a Pi.
Exactly. I was going to just say, like, that's a PC running Linux is like,
it's a
like,
Pi.
It's my little
yeah.
That's my thought too.
Your
Totally
Apple
a Raspberry Pi.
IIc. The Apple IIc you're holding way away from the camera.
That's right. Yeah, I was holding up a one of Charles Mangan's enclosures. It's a Raspberry Pi enclosure, but I mean, it also has USB.
USB.
So it's source. You can compile. Right. It's not like an Intel binary. So yeah.
Right.
I mean,
and it's Python, so it's comprehensible.
Yeah. I think I've got like a Raspberry Pi, stuck to my shoe. It's like so many Raspberry Pis, like in my sock accidentally. Whoops. Yep. There it is. That's awesome. This is really cool. This is very cool.
See, Paul, you did bring a good thing.
Yeah, Paul brought it, Carrington. I don't know. We had our doubts.
We did. I had a lot. I still have a few.
But
they linger.
One fewer now.
One fewer. I have one fewer.
Okay. So it actually doesn't look like anyone else has put any other things in here.
Ours were so good. Like, and I was like, mic drop.
Okay.
Paul, on the other hand, came with the multiples.
That's okay. I think I can save that for later. Unless did you want to talk about it?
I don't even
talk
know what
about
it is.
Okay.
Come on, don't tease us.
We can do one more.
I haven't read it. That's the problem.
Quick weed.
Yeah. What I was next time I'll tease that next time I'll talk about something that is too long to read in the few minutes before an episode begins, but it is really pretty cool.
It's about Space War. I'm excited. Space War video game. Nice.
All right,
bring that. Okay, for next show. Coming up on next show, Space War.
Yeah.
Paul learns to read.
Yeah. But actually, speaking of aspirational preparation and all that stuff, we don't actually have a gift idea yet. Any ideas for? Oh, actually, I had an idea. Okay, so
sure we do.
Okay,
what's it to do with Mother's Day, or because today's Mother's Day? No,
it is Mother's Day today. Yes,
it is Mother's Day.
Welcome to all the stuff that gets cut out.
That's why you listen live, folks.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So, and I guess that's basically it for the items of interest in news. And so now, a word from our sponsor. A long time ago in our show notes, we had a gift idea that was it was a flash drive. Let's see if I can find this somewhere. That interesting.
What do you use to take software back and forth?
No, I can't find it. I thought I had
the SneakerNet. SneakerNet used to be floppies. Now it can also be USB sticks, I guess.
This thing.
Is there any USB things built into sneakers?
Surely,
so use a
there must be.
I think we thought that this seemed interesting. It's kind of.
Oh, did we not talk about that on the show? I remember this. Yeah, totally. Cool.
I have some memory of that.
Oh, so do you think we actually used it?
Not necessarily.
I don't know.
Do it.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I don't actually understand. I don't think it's trying to be one of those. What is it called? The device they brought in from under the sea.
Well, from
the old computation device.
You mean right? Like the
it starts with an A. Has a
abacus
somewhere.
No,
not the abacus.
Antikythera.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I don't know that word.
Yeah, the Antikythera mechanism. I think I got that word right.
Is that
look it up. Let me Google.
From Da Vinci Code? That kind of thing? You remember? It was.
Looks like it is, but it's not. Antikythera. Okay. Look at me. Ooh.
Look at that.
I don't know that word. I learned something new today. Okay.
It doesn't really come up much.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this will do. Whatever. It's kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
It seems retro. Okay. And we're back. So the host's retro computing gift idea for this this time is a Cryptex USB flash drive, 32 entire gigabytes. I didn't actually notice that until just now. That doesn't sound like very many gigabytes, but that's okay. It looks cool. It is a USB 3 antique gold looking thing, and it's basically like a little cylinder. It's a cylinder with rotating number dials around it, and you can sort of it essentially can lock it. I don't know if you can. I think it functions. Like I think it's a functional lock, but it's basically a USB flash drive.
Oh, I assumed it had to be dialed to the right numbers, and it was like a digital lock. So it's an actual like mechanical lock.
Physical, yeah. It's like a case that won't let go unless, right. It looks very steampunk-y.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can't, I don't own one. I can't recommend it as far as like, data integrity.
But let's say you need to smuggle something into Czechoslovakia, for instance, and you don't want it to be a cassette.
That's right. And you want to make it look extra tempting by making it look like something locked.
Yeah, this doesn't look suspicious at all. What's in there? No, it's nothing. What do you mean? It's just one of those Antikythera things. You know what those are.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks pretty pleasant. I'm not sure what I would use it for exactly, except for display. But I suppose you could 32 gigabytes. You could fit a few floppy images on that. I think.
I'm not suspicious. I'm Captain Nemo.
That's right.
I mean, the look of it, I think you could actually be walking down the street. Like if you wave that around, you might get arrested. Actually, I don't know. It definitely looks nefarious, but it looks very cool. And again, steampunky, which I dig.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So anyway. I don't think we have much more to say about that. It's retro and only a kind of a.
But if you have one of those steampunk keyboards that keep coming up, the ones that are all made of brass and wood and stuff and typewriter keys, then this would be the perfect thing to have on your desk beside it. If you're going for like retro, and to you retro is late 1800s, this is the deal.
That's right.
Actually, so what it says on the side is a mechanical combination lock protects your digital data, designed according to original sketches by Leonardo da Vinci. And then it says the same thing in Cyrillic. I think.
In acrylic, in Cyrillic, it says "power to the people."
Yeah, no, it's I guess information. Yeah, I can see information in there. That's about it. And I see Leonardo da Vinci there at the bottom, so it is at least some of it is in honest Cyrillic. But cool. Anyway, that's cool. Okay, so once you're done buying that, getting arrested, making bail, you can turn your attention to eBay, and Blake has something for you to buy.
I actually have two things. One of them I decided, and I don't think I've actually put it on our list, but I decided not to do it because it's kind of weird and perhaps lame. But that'll be number two. Okay.
Weird and lame is in our wheelhouse.
Weird and like, well, we're burning on through the show, so I'll bring out the strange second thing. Let me share my screen.
What is the strange second thing? Put the link in.
The second thing,
because otherwise it'll get lost to history. When
I'll have to add it to the show. I'll have to add it to the show notes. I haven't added it yet, but here we go. Okay. So what I've got here is a cartridge called, it's from Colorware, and it's called the Coco Max High-Res Pack Input Module, the Tandy TRS-80. It's actually for the color computer, which is a Tandy and sort of also a TRS-80. But it's more, this device is more something I just have memories of this, discussing it with, there was one friend of mine in middle school, early high school. I was one of the, believe it or not, I was a computer geek in much of my schooling. And I had this friend, Thomas Chu. I remember, I haven't heard from him in decades, but he was the only Coco guy around. He was all Coco all the time. I mean, he had the Coco this and that, and color computer, he had the 2, the 3, and it was interesting talking to him about this, because I had no idea anything about the color computer, other than just playing, Duck Beetle or whatever Andy called that bug game in the Radio Shack whenever we walked in there. So he would talk about this drawing program that was very Mac-like, and of course, Mac Paint-like. And I think once Mac Paint came out, and more computers than just the Mac had graphical interfaces, I think that was sort of a loose basis of drawing programs for every platform for quite a while. But this on the, and I don't know if it ran on the original Tandy Coco or if it was just the Coco 2 was the base, but you can, there's a mouse for the Coco, and you can, put this cartridge in, plug it, load it up, and you've got I've got a video actually showing. I'm going to switch to the video showing, what this looks like for those on YouTube. This is alternating between shots of Mac Paint and shots of this Coco Max. As you can see, it's very Mac Paint-like, despite the low resolution. I think the original Coco Max was black and white. NTSC artifacting might have been something that happens, but not in this video. And then I know there was a version of this for the Color Computer 3, which was more advanced with 64 color palette, and it was faster, and nice machine, Coco 3. But anyway, the thing about it is the Tandy mouse, like the Tandy had various ports. They had sort of a loose bit banger serial-like port on it. It had the joystick ports, and as I recall, I have a Tandy mouse. I'm trying to remember where it plugs in. I think it plugs into the joystick port on the Coco 3. But one of the things, if you're really serious about this, is the resolution of the mouse was, the system's ability to interpret mouse position was such that it wasn't ideal. The precision for drawing was rough. It didn't work out very well, and it was wanting. And so if you were, a Coco Max big, avid artist, you could get this cartridge. And from what I remember, you can sort of see in the picture that I'm showing on YouTube of a little silver outline on the bottom of the cartridge. And I think that's
it looks like it has a port on the cartridge.
Yeah, that's what I'm remembering. I don't think that it modified the routines. It wasn't just ROM that modified how the Tandy handled things. I believe it had its own interface. And the Tandy cartridge slot was basically, it's kind of analogous to like an Apple II bus slot. There was a card cage called the multi-pack interface where you could plug in, 4 or so cartridges, but really they were sort of like interface cards as well. There's music cards, there's hard drive cards, proper serial cards. So this would interface basically as a mouse controller. You'd plug the mouse into this, and it gave you much finer control of the mouse, the Tandy mouse, such that it was apparently a pleasure to use. And I just remember, it's sort of such a very niche thing, but I remember having these conversations with the guy, and I remember when he got this cartridge, it was, such a big deal, and he was talking about it, and he, pushed it over to his, Coco 3 when he got that, and I remember he was enjoying the cartridge, and it's just interesting that, hardware made to address the shortcoming, of a system. Here's the Coco, here's the mouse. They're both made by the host company, but this company, made a drawing program. We want it to work better, so we're going to, have our own mouse interface just for our drawing program. And I thought that was cool. And I'm guessing that, for some of the operating systems, some of the other software that came along, that some would take advantage and have the option of using one of these, if you had it in the system to provide better mouse input. It's probably the case that some of the visual managers for Nitros and things like that could take advantage of it. But anyway, I thought that was it really struck a memory for me, and it seemed an interesting little piece. So I think
it's funny that in the listing you have, if you hover over the image of the front of it, there's a screw just driven right in the middle of the cartridge. It looks like through the label. Presumably it was below the label, and the label got picked away at it. Not just somebody got it and said, "I'll show you." And just shoved a screw down the middle like a magic trick. The code is okay.
I'm guessing that was under the label. You can kind of see a little white fleck on the side. But you never know. You know, there's artists that are this hardcore about drawing on the Coco Max. I mean, they could have just
I
picked
don't
up
need
a
the
drill
codes
and
in
said,
this region of the
like that
chip.
it's better than cutting your ear off. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to drive a screw through this thing, nail it to the desk. Yeah, I think so. So I guess I'm not, you know.
Open. You know, it was
What's that?
conceivable that either that or it was just opened. You know, it's like somebody wanted to see what was inside, and the screw was under the label.
There was a little tiny artist inside, painting madly.
That's right. That's right.
So Curtis
I'd
in the
actually
chat
like
tells
to-
us that
Yeah,
you're
there's
right
all
about
kinds
the resolution, that the built-in analog resolution for the mouse was 64 by 64, and the Coco Max cartridge increased it to 256 by 192. Thank you, Curtis.
Okay.
That is good info.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Curtis also mentioned in the comments a few minutes ago, I was going to bring up, and this seems a good time, that there's a new beta 6.1 for Nitro S9 coming out for the Coco 3. So
cool.
Very cool. Yeah, it's nice the support that system has and how capable it is. I really need to play more with my Coco 3. I'm having some issues that maybe Curtis can help me offline with.
I like the Coco.
Actually.
I had a Coco, like an original Coco as a kid, but I never had the 2 and 3, which is what I'd like to have.
Yeah, the 3's.
I liked my Coco.
I actually tried to track down this high school friend I mentioned before I, was going to go in on, okay, it's time to buy some Coco hardware, and I was trying to find the guy, and I couldn't find him. But anyway, he may still be carrying around that Coco Max, analog.
telling anyone he meets on the street, like,
yeah, he's like, "What are you using? Adobe Illustrator? How's the resolution on that mouse? You see what I got here in my holster? It's the Coco Max interface. I keep it in the holster just in case."
It's funny because, so when I was looking for eBay auctions, this did come across my radar too as well, and it briefly made it into my list. But then I sort of, other things got there instead, but I didn't understand what it was. I kind of assumed it was like just sort of like a multi-pack, current new modern made thing that just had all the software on it. I was wrong.
Yeah, the name
on
makes
several
it sound
dimensions.
like that.
Yeah, I mean the software comes as far as I understand on disc or tape, as far as I understand. So you're using it, but I know that there was Coco Max 2, Coco Max 3. Coco Max 3 was the one for the and actually I definitely want to eventually get that running on my my Coco 3. I was tempted to buy this because I know one day I'll be running it, but I don't know. I think I'm probably gonna leave it out there for a artist that is more Tandy oriented than I'm probably likely to become. But the main thing of it is I've had that little story to tell. I think that was, I remember that specifically in the computer lab in high school or middle school, and that was kind of a fun memory. Okay, so I doubt on any podcast anyone's ever talked that much about this analog device for Coco Max. So we've got that covered.
That's cool though.
And we're not quite done because there's a couple other things that Curtis added in the chat that I
okay, please bring it.
Curtis mentioned that Tim Jennison of Tim's Vermeer documentary and video Toaster fame designed the high-res mouse and joystick interface for that, and it's for the Coco 1 and 2, and it was actually a big seller in the start of Tim Jennison's career. So
wow, okay, interesting. Thank you, Curtis. And he mentions Color Max 3 Deluxe, Coco Max 3. Oh, I see. It looks like there was some rival companies.
That's pretty poor. If like you name your product somebody else's product too.
Right. Yeah, Color Max, Coco Max, and by the way, we'll support we'll take advantage of your analog device. It was a crazy, dicey world back then. But anyway, thanks, Curtis. That's a lot of good information on this. And, my level of my temptation level to purchase this thing is slowly rising. So it's got,
it may not survive the end of the show. It's
currently sitting at, there's a buy it now at $50. So 100% feedback from the seller. My intention is not yet to buy it, but we'll see what happens during the rest of the show. Okay, and I see that
picture of the relevant mouse up there. I think this is the right mouse.
Yeah, well, that's the color mouse.
I did not have one of those. Oh, looks like Blake has one at the moment.
And it's gonna go.
That's the color mouse. I actually have. I have the deluxe mouse as well, which
man.
is
So it's got
yeah,
chicken
complete
on this
with
guy.
with uncoated metal ball. It's I'd
Same.
never encountered uncoated, but I think I can't decide. I don't recall if this is called the color mouse or the enhanced color mouse, but I know that this was a higher tier. You can see it's 2 buttons versus the 1 button for what Paul has shared. But yeah, so
one of the color mouses.
mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that seemed an interesting little. I guess it's another aspect of kind of just, I don't know what the word, not pluck isn't the right word, but just there's such a tight following of like the Tandy people have, even way back when, because I feel like there were less. I might be wrong, but I got the perception, that it was not quite like the TI people, but it was kind of, there really wasn't as wide open a world, of software and perhaps peripherals as, Commodore 64, Atari.
It seemed
Apple
like that
II.
here in Toronto when I had my Coco. I was on CompuServe, so I had a couple of computers, one of which was the Coco that I quite liked. And the Coco was actually my usual CompuServe machine. I had kind of set up to be just basically a CompuServe chat thing. And I ran up some significant long distance bills for my parents on that one.
Yeah.
But there was nobody, I knew nobody with a Coco. At all. The
Yeah.
Apple II, like other things, lots of people had on it, lots of friends, but I was the only Coco person, the one Coco guy in Toronto.
It has, there have for decades been, preemptive multitasking operating systems for it. And arguably, of all the systems I just mentioned, from a CPU perspective, arguably it's the most powerful system of the lot, the 6809. And not only that, but I think we've mentioned before that Hitachi, you can replace that CPU with kind of a super powered compatible unit that has additional operations. And it's quite an impressive thing. Good thing the Coco's in my book. But
and robust too, because you can take their cartridges and just ram a screw right through the middle, and they work fine.
right through the middle, and it doesn't. It doesn't.
Thing.
Indeed.
Feature.
So I could quickly go over this. Do you want to do the weird, quick second option ahead? I didn't put it in the listing.
I like weird.
Okay.
Yeah, let me do that real quick. Okay. It says that I'm still sharing, but I don't see it. I think that's a controller. Are you? Do you?
I mean,
I'm not.
I could put you up if you want.
Yeah. Can you?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, this is the other thing, and I don't know why I'm talking about this. It just seemed weird to me. So it's the Capstone Home Alone, the computerized coloring book, diskette, and manual. And I'm thinking, okay, what is this? And it looks like it's for a PC. It's $37.99. What it is, I guess, around the time Home Alone came out, this company, adding, little tie onto the movie, created. And tell me if these things were common. Like, was it a common thing to, well, first I'll describe what it is. There are scenes from over 24 pictures from the movie. And what it is, of course, is, line drawn screens, scenes that have no color. And then you can use the 256 colors with palette mixing to fill in. And you can see, kind of on the back shot that I'm showing that, they've filled in some of the colors. You can see the kid running, what was his name? I can't remember Kevin, yes, running down the hall, from the robbers. But it just seems so bizarre to me. Like, okay, I liked Home Alone. That was a good movie. I'm going to go at the software store and take this off the wall. And they've got over 24 pictures that I can color. And once I'm done with that, I guess I could color them again, and probably print and save. It's a computerized coloring book. I don't know. This seemed weird to me, but is this something that is everywhere and I'm just weird that I didn't know that? And what do you?
I think I'm trying to remember that. I mean, I don't remember the movie tie-in in other cases, but there definitely were things like Micro Painter or something like that. I think that were something like this, like sort of coloring book type things, where you would get the lines and then be and handed a little fill paint bucket and told to go to
Okay.
town.
Yeah. As you can see on the manual, it is a uncolored manual. You could physically, that's a paper manual. You could color that with crayons, actually. But yeah, it just struck me as really odd, and I mentioned it because I just had the one. But anyway, it's probably not that interesting when I look back at it. So there you go. That's all I got for the. That's all I got for the eBay. Yeah, I'm certainly not going to order the Home Alone coloring book,
It's
regardless
funny
of
though.
how many colors are offered me.
It does sort of feel like late stage software of some sort, like the dying gasps of the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what. Oh wow! Actually, now that I'm looking at the description, it was $37.99 in good condition, missing floppy disk.
Yeah.
The item is in good condition, missing the floppy disk. So I guess you can't actually run it. It's just the box and manual. That's yeah.
I wonder if you could fake an item like this, like
But it says diskette and manual in the title.
Oh
right?
well, does it?
Yeah, Capstone
says
Home
it-
Alone, the computerized
incomplete.
coloring book, diskette and manual, and in the description in good condition, missing floppy disk.
Are we looking at the same thing? I don't know. The one I was looking at says Capstone Home Alone, the computerized coloring book, incomplete.
That's not what I'm looking at.
Interesting.
Well,
So there are two on eBay. Oh yeah. Actually, no. Okay, so and the one that I'm looking at has the disc.
oh,
So if you look at the link in the show notes, you can see. That's interesting. I just assumed that there was only one, and we were looking at the same one. But this one has the disc.
but look at the description of yours.
Where's the description of
At the top. At the top.
The item is in good condition, missing the floppy disk. And then here, there's a photo of the floppy disk.
Okay, so I think it's best just to give this one a wide berth. I think we'll just go ahead and stay away. It's unclear whether you're getting a box, and there's two of them, both with similar confusionary aspects.
Maybe it's just a picture of a disc that you can color in.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Could be.
I hope so too.
Anyway, I'm more deeply regretting having added this one to the list as time goes on. So let's move on to other people's items. I'm certainly done with that.
Okay.
I got a book. It is a 1980s computer chip handbook. It is 600 pages. This is a thing that has already been preserved. You can find it on archive.org if you want to read 600 pages, one slow turn at a time. It deals with the details of chips, basically everything up to that date. Micro 4-bit things, but also the 8080. It's got RCA Cosmac stuff, IMSI things, the Z80, the Z8. Like, it is a huge book that gives you the details of all these chips. Like, I just love this thing. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. It is readily available on things like Abbey Books, but usually goes $450 to $550. Crazy money. It is currently $36. Buy it now on eBay. So if you have been wanting one of these things, 4 people are viewing it, but I think 4 people that don't realize that typically to buy this book, it's $400. So crazy good price, not for archiving. There's good scans of this on archive.org. But if you wanted this thing, if you want to code for something or whatever, this is a screaming bargain for this book. For me, it costs more to ship it than to buy it. It's a good book.
Wow.
If you're into chips, it's a book, 600 pages of chips and chips and chips, like just like all the details.
I noticed at the cover, you showed the cover on the auction. It said Osborne, and I was under the impression that this was something to do with the Osborne Computer Corporation, or maybe to do with its systems. I guess not, because it's covering all manner of CPU.
I think Osborne's the publisher.
Yeah. Okay, so that's
also one of the authors.
Okay, yeah, okay, so yeah, this has nothing to do with the Osborne executive or Adam Osborne.
No, but it's a cool book. And so I was looking at the cost of it. I'm like, holy moly, that sells for a lot. There's one on Amazon right now that is like shows a picture of this book, but then the description talks about another book, and the rating is like, this is terrible. So I think it's a fake one or a print on demand one.
It's
but Abbey Books, it would cost you $500 to get this thing on Abbey Books. So fairly rare book, and if you're if you're into chips, then good one to get. It looks like, and a good deal.
Brown with those muted earth tones of the 70s.
Oh yeah, I'm digging the 70s look of it. But
it looks very nice. But okay, so
wouldn't mind a vinyl wing chair that had that treatment. That would be.
I wouldn't mind a vinyl wing chair. Period. Just be leaning back and podcasting.
So this says Osborne 4 and 8-bit microprocessor handbook. Adam Osborne, Jerry Kane are the authors. Adam Osborne is in fact the Osborne you are thinking of, who introduced the Osborne 1, the first commercially successful portable computer, according to Wikipedia, the store of all knowledge.
Yes.
But it does have relationships to the Osborne computer that you were thinking of, insofar as it's written by the same person.
Did we see a publication year on this, or is that not
let's see if there's one in the front. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Googleable.
It's probably knowledge that can be acquired.
Yeah. And it's not late 80s, because a lot of chips it's dealing with, it doesn't seem to have late 80s stuff. There's like 15 different families of chips. But it's got the MOS stuff. It's got like the big names from late 70s, early 80s. So.
Yeah.
I'm keen on it. I don't want it, but I'm keen on it. So somebody who does want it, this looks like the thing to go. I'd pull the trigger on it. That's it. That was my choice. Good book. Read a book.
Very nice. Very nice.
Impressive.
Okay, let's see. I have a couple of things. They are all kind of arbitrary, but so it goes. I'll start with the one that is thematically related. It is a lot. So this, I guess it's sort of interesting. More, I don't know if it's interesting. Maybe it's not interesting, because it is. It's in New York.
We'll tell you.
It is pickup only. So, so maybe it is not interesting. But it is 3 Osbornes, and a monitor and a printer, and I guess all these things work together. It's actually quite cheap, I think, because you're getting 3 of these. And they were stored working. Who knows if they work now? There's an executive actually.
I was gonna say it's got the big screen executive.
Yeah. Well, and actually there's also an external screen there, and what looks to me like an Apple printer.
The silent type was, I think it's actually like a CI2, like that Apple rebranded. It's something like that. I think it started off non-Apple.
This is the silent type, but yeah, I mean, I think this is the dot matrix printer, the Apple DMP. I think that's what this. I think that's the model that Apple rebranded it as, but
it doesn't look like a silent type.
I wouldn't think that anything that has a dot matrix, percussion head is gonna.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. The DMP. I was thinking. I forgot about yes. But I know that didn't start out as an Apple printer. Like they rebranded it from somewhere.
I think you're right, and I think that's true of a lot of Apple printers actually. Even in fact, the actual silent type that I
was something else.
From my vantage point, existed. That's like a thermal printer of some kind. And here there's also a nice big box of discs. And what it says about that box of discs is that the brown box on the right of the first photo is full of floppy disks. It is not included unless they can be erased. So,
why photograph it? Also show us a picture of your car.
Yeah, unless they can be erased by him, or maybe I promise I'll erase them. That's strange.
Yeah. Put a screw through them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a theme.
Anyway, whatever. I'm not actually sure what I was thinking of when I put this in the list, now that I get through with it, but it did have an Osborne connection, and we were.
So it's pickup only. So where is it located?
It's in New York.
Okay.
Could
be of interest to New York people.
3 Osbornes. That for $300, that seems like a pretty good price.
I think it is.
Osborne, a Daddy Osborne, and a Baby Osborne.
Yeah, and I think so. I think probably 2 of them are 1s, and one of them is a executive, which is what, a 3. I forget now what the numbering system is, but I think the Vixen's a 4. So I don't know if
is there a Vixen? Is one of them?
Not. But if there were, then that would definitely be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost track, but I think the executive. Oh wait, if I zoom deeply in on the executive photo, maybe I can see what Osborne number it is. It might be.
It's definitely no Vixen though, because the Vixen had the actually big screen,
Yeah.
and on the left,
Yeah.
I think.
Those are nice. That is a nice machine. I did finally acquire one eventually,
Oh,
but I don't think I tried it.
The
That's the
executive,
problem.
the executive is the number 2.
Okay.
I was gonna say
so
the only ones I
62.
know really are the Osborne 1 and then the executive.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
know there
and
was
then
a
the
middle
Vixen
two.
is the successor to the executive. So that would be, according to what the Wikipedia chain I'm following, it looks like those are the 3.
Seriously? Oh, and so it's actually known as OCC3. For some reason, I thought it was 4, but okay.
No, I don't think it's what I'm getting at is there's the Osborne 1, which is the first successful portable computer as you just pointed out, and then its successor is the executive, and then according to that, its predecessor is the 1, and the successor is the Vixen.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that there's not another one thrown in.
Osborne.
But wasn't the Vixen called the Osborne 4? Am I wrong about that? I think there was definitely, it was called the Osborne 4.
Wait, the Vixen was also known as the Osborne 4. Yeah, so what about that? Doesn't add
So
up.
like, oh,
Well, it's because the Apple III was such a failure. Nobody wanted anything to do with the 3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first K-Pro was the K-Pro 2.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the K-Pro 2. And then there was a K-Pro 1 later, much later.
Yeah.
K-Pro 1 was much later. Yeah. So how do you like that?
I like it.
All right. Moving on to the next thing in my arbitrary list of things. This is a lot of 2 Sanyo VM 4509 9-inch black and white monitors. It says Apple Computer Monitor, but that's nonsense. They're Sanyo. But the reason that they're interesting is because they were often sort of recommended with the early Apple IIs. So when you see those sort of classic Apple II setups, they have one of these 9-inch monitors. And so there's a sense in which this is like period accurate monitor.
Right.
If you want to have it on top of your Apple II and have your floppy disk beside it and kind of have that look, this is the monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But are these things in some sort of case that holds them together?
So this is 2 bolted together, and I don't know how hard they are to get apart. But
I bet you could just take that it's like a rack. I bet you could just take that off.
yeah, hopefully you can.
Or you have a dual screen Apple II.
Yeah, right. Anyway, it's these do sell for a lot because of the sort of period accuracy. So this was started at a bid of $99.95, so like just under $100, which is decent for these, particularly because there's 2 of them. This is in Houston, and it would take $55 to ship it to me, but which is, I mean, they're heavy. So that's reasonable.
Yeah, I remember so many ads in the back of the early Apple magazines showing, one of these sitting to the side, like sitting on top, but like on the side top of the 2.
Yeah.
I was just looking. I'm wrong. I thought there's that bizarre and famous Apple ad where the guy's using an Apple to plot some finances in the kitchen.
Yeah,
I thought he was using one, but now he's using a television. So, yeah. But no, those are. Yeah, I know I've certainly seen plenty of those.
And just doing a Google image search for Apple II Sanyo, you can see, the setup.
Because there's room for the floppies next to it,
Right.
which is a cool look.
Yeah. Anyway, so so there's that. What is this? Oh yes, this is I've listed this as an early IBM real-time clock.
It's International Time Recording Company. Yeah, because that's basically they got merged and then went into IBM.
Yeah, so this is one of the earlier companies that was IBM. So
that's hilarious. IBM real-time clock. Nice.
Real time.
So
Well, look at that.
You can actually see, International Business Machines Corp, manufactured by International Time Recording Company. There's a very old IBM logo.
Wow. Patented in 1919.
Yep. So I think that I this.
So that's weird then, because wasn't it? I thought it was really early 1910s.
What does that date say?
ITR became part of CTRC, wasn't it?
Yeah. Right, exactly. That's what I believe it was around the 1910s.
Yeah, it says 1911. ITR was merged into Computing Tabulating Recording Company in 1911. So why the heck is it? That's a weird date.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what does
and,
the date say there in the
and
blank? Yeah.
it looks like it says 1980 to me,
But
which so I don't know. I don't know what to make of that either.
could it be 1930?
Maybe it is 1930. Yeah, I think it is 1930. Actually, now that I've zoomed
Yeah.
further in on it. So
August 8, 1930, I think.
okay.
Anyway, this
It
is
looks to
all
me.
kinds of cool. How did you even find
Yeah.
this?
Oh well, I looked for clocks from this company. I mean, this is in the collectibles clocks, section. So it is not super cheap. It's $225, but it's kind of like it's a cool thing. In fact, actually, what led me to think about this was that I was going to search for the cheese slicer, because there's another
Right.
sort of, IBM cheese slicer you can get from a little later. And I think that is sort of 1930s. But anyway,
Wow.
so if you
Yeah,
want,
and I guess
old IBM
it's,
tech.
the title says vintage 30s, so maybe that would speak to the August 1930.
Oh yeah, I guess that's sort of something like confirmation of my having read that date right. So, or at least a shared
cool.
delusion.
That is very,
Very
cool.
Yeah.
Neat clock.
So this is something. This is listed. The next thing I have is listed as a Coleco Atom power supply ? Untested. And the description of it, it's just a power supply. It has a little place to plug it in and another place to plug another end in. And the description says, "This is what I believe is a Coleco Atom computer power supply. I received this in a large lot of Coleco Atom gear. I have since sold the actual Atom this went with, so I have no means to test this device." The one thing that we always say about the Coleco Atom is that the thing that's terrible about it is that the power supply is in the printer. Nobody wants a printer, but you need the printer in order to power the thing. And so if this is in fact some sort of rigged up Coleco Atom power supply, that's kind of interesting because it's a way that you can run your printerless Coleco Atom. It's not an actual Coleco thing. It's just sort of a third party thing that might have the right connector on it.
But it's so weird. Did the Atom? Well, I guess if the printer connected, well, that maybe underscores the possibility because the interface cable for this thing is a DB9 female. Yeah. And you'd think, well, why would a power? But it wasn't a power connector. That's where the printer would plug into the system. But one of the lines or several is power. So maybe that, it doesn't look like a power connector, but then it wouldn't, is the point. So,
yeah. So
what is it? Who is it from? Eve?
The company, Eve Electronic Systems Inc. In Framingham, Mass. So it's I think it's just some power supply. Maybe they did make a specific. Maybe they were specifically trying to make, Coleco Atom power supplies for people who hated printers.
Or it could be just that somebody noticed that it supplied the voltage, whatever that's required, and it works with the Atom.
Yeah.
Anyway, neat.
Yeah. So I thought it was kind of interesting. It might, this is a $50 buy it now. If you, I suppose if you had an Atom, and you can find them, I mean, like people will sell them without the printer, and so this could be pretty useful. Sorcerer Stan in the comments said that he made his own Atom power supply using a video arcade game replacement power supply. So it's possible to do. I guess we probably could guess that it was possible, but so now we know of one that exists and a possible second.
Look what I found, Paul. Eve Electronic Systems speech synthesizer for the Coleco Atom. So Eve. So apparently, it's a Eve speech synthesizer Coleco Atom. So clearly, Eve was in this. Clearly they're the same. I can't talk. And they were making peripherals for the Atom, and that would seem to pretty much 100% validate that is in fact a power supply. And of the things that Atom users, as we were, I think all would agree, would want is a power supply that would get the printer out of the way because that daisy wheel printer. Interesting. Well, there you go.
All right. And let's see, did I have another one? I think I had one more. Oh yeah. No, this is a little NEC PC 8201A. Which is it's a Model 100 like. I think this is in the little family of things that Model 100, Model 102, and so forth. This is nice because it just has a lot of stuff. It doesn't have the box, I guess, but it has all the manuals and the personal application kit tape, and it looks like it's relatively clean. Has all the port covers. I think I am missing a port cover on the one that I have, and it says something about the battery pack. It doesn't show the battery pack, I don't think, but it says that it doesn't power the thing, and that's not surprising because it's a battery pack. So it needs to be plugged in with power. But
So will it execute the same binaries as the? I know that the Tandy Model 100, they were not. I mean, they were started out as they were NEC units, right? Or they were somebody's units. Will it execute the same executables?
So. Yeah, I believe that they're basically compatible. So, and part of the reason I was pointing this out is because it's pretty cheap. It has no bids as I am speaking, and its first bid is $90, and that's not very much for this. Particularly because it's got all the keys, and it looks like it powers on, and it has all the manuals and stuff. So I think if you were looking for one of these, this is a pretty good instance of one.
So you have a functional one, Paul?
Well, I have one. I'm trying to think. I probably turned it on at one point, but I haven't. It's one of those like projects, for the future kind of thing.
One of those projects for the future.
Yeah. I think I have 2 NEC machines. There's another one that I actually have. Maybe I have 3. I think I have 3 actually, because I have 2 that have boxes. But one of them was very specifically for some sort of. It was like packaged. It was bundled in, packaged for some kind of specific application that I'm forgetting now. But it was sort of like like some sort of like a lot of the old what were these things? I'm trying to remember now. But there's a set of things that were given out to like insurance dealers and stuff. Like there's just a ton of these things that have like little ROMs that will calculate insurance
specific applications.
And there was something sort of like that had a. I'll figure it out before next time. But anyway, it came up on some. Probably was an eBay auction on a previous episode that I wound up with somehow. But
yeah, it's interesting how machines of this ilk. I mean, some of them have cartridges, but it was an okay thing to distribute software as dip chips. Like I have the big thanks to Earl back with his his earlier podcast days. I of course got one of the Genevas, the PX8, and it has that little door. You can add one way to add software is these chips, and I saw that it looks like the NEC has a row of like 8 bare dip expansions. That's more than the Model 100 would have, right? That was more of a basic unit, right?
I don't know. I mean, it definitely had some.
It had some. I think it was like 2 or something.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is only 2 because you put in like a super ROM or something like that, and there's a couple of things that you can put in.
Right.
Well, according to my little inventory, I seem to have 2 8201As in a box and 1 not. So
okay,
that figures.
So the answer to your having one of these is yes.
Yeah. But
it's rarely no.
Yeah, I think this is a good price for it, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that I think gets me to the end of my eBay list. So,
sure to circle back to the Coleco Atom in the chat. Sorcerer Stan says he made his own Atom power supply using a video arcade game replacement power supply. So that kind of thing, that's cool. Also stuck a link in the show notes to somebody who made an internal PSU for an Atom, so you can watch a video of somebody doing that. That's cool.
And then
you can Sorcerer Stan,
play it on put it on a CFFA 3000 and play it on a 2E.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, I guess we made it through that. We can now perhaps turn to closing discussions. And Blake, do you have any closing notes?
Well, I've been. It's only been in the past week that I've been playing with and writing the little brief piece about the Chris's AppSy video thing. I'm excited about that. I'm hoping to, try to pry some other videos out of him, and there's some things I want to try. I did some early runs, and I have the CFFA allows for both compact flash on board, which is a little less convenient to access because you've got to open the 2E and stick the CFFA in there. Whereas the USB 3, the basic USB, it's easy to pull a cable. I've got an extension cable hanging out of the thing, so I can just plug it in. But the card I was using is ancient. Like I have literally a 12-year-old, like 13-year-old. It's like the first USB stick. I think it has like one. Could it be a gigabyte?
It just has one.
Like 1K.
I have a memory.
Whatever the case is, I'm sure it costs like $100, and it looks so old, but it's quite slow. Like it was causing performance issues. So I want to play with using faster USB sticks, and I actually am having some issues. Something's weird's happening with my CFFA, trying to copy contents to a faster USB stick. So I'm going to play around with that a bit more. That's I'm trying to find time to do these things. Work is a little busy these days, a little strange, structures changing. So again, it's kind of patchy as far as what I have time for. But I will, and I'll let people know, and we'll, and further shows, let folks know what evolves with, the video playback on that 2E. So, but yeah, that's about all I got. Kind of hashing down the list.
All right, Carrington, any closing thoughts?
Just a note that I'm still enjoying Punion Form, which I think I mentioned on an earlier show. I've been working on a text adventure in Punion Form. Hadn't touched it in a while. Came back to it, and there's a new version of Punion Form, so I upgraded to 2.4, and it broke my game in many, many places. So welcome to working on language that is evolving. Probably shouldn't have done that. But so now I'm going back to try to get the game that was working so I can continue developing on it. But it's super fun. I love it. If you want to do a retro text adventure to run on an 8-bit computer, I do highly recommend it. It's super fun.
Cool. Yeah, I think that'd be fun to try.
What about you, Paul?
I've got various things. Actually, one thing that I will maybe quickly do here, if I can, is I found a photo of the thing, the PC 8300 packaged thing, and it turns out it's an event recorder. I guess you can't quite see it, but there's a disc here that says a portable event recorder, and this is a software for the Apple II. So that, in fact, actually was what kind of drove me to getting this. Is that it's some sort of experimental. Experiment running software, but the sort of brains of it, the brains of the acquisition part is this PC 3800, PC 8300, which is the evolution of the same thing.
Yeah.
So
it interfaces to the Apple II. That's how this works.
Yeah, I guess this is basically this is collecting the event data, and then it's being sort of collected and analyzed on that.
Right. Interesting. Somehow it seems strange to me that's working with the Apple II. I would have expected like a PC or a CPM machine or something. That's strange. I don't know why I feel that way, but
or just a measuring device. There's lots of things that do that event recorder. So simply it's a card and has a whole bunch of sensors or buttons or whatever. So it's kind of weird that would go to this and then to sensors.
Oh well, yeah, and I think the way it looks, the Apple part is separate, so it could be, you may well find that you could find the same package at, in the 80s or whenever, but with a PC supplement as well, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, and actually one other thing about that is if when I opened it up to take a look at what sort of what the software was, and it turned out, let's see if I can put that in there. It turned out that it's on a chip, like we were talking about, but it's actually also let's see if I can bring this up. Untitled I think Untitled 3 is the photo I want. But it's in there, but it's all sort of like gooped in, like it's epoxied in or whatever, so that you cannot take it out. You cannot figure out like what the software is. Presumably you will destroy the board if you try to remove it. So
interesting.
not cool.
Yeah. I've seen that
like
happen
how Paul
before.
lives the kind of lifestyle. You can open Untitled 3 live on YouTube and just feel confident about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I applaud you, sir.
Right. But anyway, yeah, I guess otherwise, apart from that, I've been sort of setting things up and trying to figure out how to route cables and in a way that doesn't look ridiculous and so forth. And we'll see. It's kind of interesting. I've discovered that. So my 2E card, which I had noticed maybe like a couple of years ago, wasn't really working. And I thought, well, okay, but the problem was that it was in an LC 475, 575.
Well, that's a great combo though. 475 with a 2E card, good stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good machine for it. But it was in a pile of computers. So like, I had my GS was on top of it, and there was like I think something else on top of it, and so like it wasn't very easy to get at the 2E card. But I have now looked at the 2E card, and I have seen the leaked capacitors.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to send that off to try to see if that can be revived. I'm hopeful that when they are replaced and the thing is cleaned off, it could be revived. But I can see some corrosion on pins on a couple of the chips and stuff, which may be the end of it. But
that is a shame. Yeah, the 475 with a 2E card is one of my dream setups. Like if you're going to play old Mac games like System 7 and earlier plus 2E card, like that is a sweet combo.
Yeah.
So is it the traces seem? Can you see? Did the traces seem okay on the board itself, or is it mainly contacts on the chips that are tied to the traces, or is it hard to see?
What I could see, the only thing I could really see was like green corrosion on the legs of one of the chips.
Maybe it'll be okay.
So I'm thinking that it probably will be, but yeah, I have a couple of those things I want to send off and.
Yeah. Where do you would you mind mention, like, if I don't know where I'm going to have to do this at some point, but I don't have a target for this work. I might attempt a little bit of it myself, but I probably will have regretted that and then end up replacing whatever I attempt to fix. So you might be just cutting that little piece out of the equation. Would you share a source, or are you not tried yet, or?
I haven't tried anything yet. I mean, but I have that same sort of feeling. I mean, like the problem is I have many of these things, but at least there's a few just like around me right now that I could probably do in one batch. But there's a place called maccaps.com, and the person who does that. I mean, the person who does that has been on Retro Maccast, and sort of a known person in the community.
Nice.
You can you basically send off your board, and he does what he can and sends it back. And so for a fee, obviously it's a business, but I do think that it's the kind of thing that I'm not confident I could do it, and I'm not sure that my time is worth.
Right.
I think I might rather do something different with my time.
Right. I mean, you got to source the caps. You got to find the caps. Source them, bring them in. Like, did you get the right ones? Do they have what if it's several caps? Yeah, it seems that whole hassle. It seems like a big hassle.
Right. And the MacCaps guy is he's got the inventory and the equipment and the experience and stuff. So it's probably
I've recapped a few boards and things and one arcade machine, but I would rather have someone else do it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
it's not actually that hard, but it's tedious, and you gotta be good, steady hand. The older I get, the more likely I'm gonna mess them up.
Yeah.
Some of them, I know I haven't done them. I've done solder work, but I haven't done recaps. But some of the boards, I mean, some of the boards, like more recent, like HP, workstations, but like even like the Amiga 1200. I mean, some of these surface mount caps, it's quite a bit more of a challenge. I mean, as far as your soldering level versus here's caps that the wires go right through. You got two prongs. That's the
level at which I have worked.
Yeah, I mean but surface mount. I mean, I don't know. I can't. I'm certainly not there. And I was going to ask, is Matt Capps strictly true to his name, or will he work on other?
I think Amiga stuff too.
Oh yeah, I mean, basically, I think on the if you go to that page, it actually just says, like, I can do whatever. It lists Amiga and Next and Mac. But,
oh, great! Wow. Okay. Boy, I'm
yes,
going to
I mean,
gather a batch.
I was thinking.
I'm starting to. It's only I'm starting to get some things. We talked about this not long ago, but now I'm starting to have some things, and of course you have such many more stacks of things that you're going to have way more. I mean, I'm sure you can hear caps leaking like in the distance, like
there's like a hiss all the time.
I know I'm not quite there, but I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah, I think I'm worried about my. I just set up just put down, I guess, my Next Station Turbo Color, and it worked last time I tried it. But I know that's one of the eras of things that could have leaky caps at some point. So yeah, I think I'm going to probably send a bunch of these out for preventative maintenance. At least I have a Color Classic that won't start for probably that reason. So
just the caps. It seems like nothing else really goes, If the caps, if it weren't for the caps, I think they'd go for decades and decades and decades.
Do we know the 2GS doesn't have that problem, right?
I'm trying to think of it as it doesn't have the battery problem, right? Because I think the battery is the safe sort. It doesn't have leaky battery issues that you need to tear it off, if I'm not mistaken. But
you're mistaken. Many GSs have died through.
Oh, they do. Lost. It does have. Okay, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, but there's
in fact the early ones,
the electrolytic
they're
capacitors on it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed the.
Yeah.
Well, no,
TGS has electrolytic capacitors.
It does. So because I don't think they're guaranteed to leak, but I think there's an era of them that is.
Right. Yes, I think there was a period. It had to do with manufacturing, like locations or something, and there were some very poor quality ones. And I think that's why the Amiga 600 and 1200s. And people have gotten upset with me saying it, but in my experience, just reading forum threads, those systems seem to have very, very shoddy caps. I mean, it's a couple of decades out of its prime time. Yes, I don't know how long people hoped them to last, but what I read was it was to do with what was happening in the world or something, when these were manufactured. Yeah. But as a side note, just for my own information, so I was under the false impression that the GS's battery was safe. So that's not the case, you're saying?
Well, no. So on the earliest GS's, maybe they're all like this. It's actually like it's wired in. Like you have to cut the wire to get the battery out. I mean, like it is not replaceable. And I think it's possible that the later ones actually do have just a sort of more standard replaceable battery cage. But I think that's true. I think like the ROM 3 has just a place that you put a replacement battery. But
okay,
I mean,
I'm going to have to look at where I am with this because something caused me not to be worried, and I don't know if that is because my ROM 3, which is what I have, had an easy replaceable battery, and I replaced it, or I thought, oh, it's not going to be a problem. Now I'm worried about it. I'm going to open that up tonight.
yeah, probably.
Okay. I need to keep a log. Like clearly, I mean, I do sometimes, but clearly I should be able to answer that question. When did you last think about the Apple IIgs battery?
Jeremy mentions in the chat that confirms that the ROM 1 is wired in and the ROM 3 is more easily replaceable. But although then qualifies that by saying he only knows this secondhand. But
I just checked on Reactive Micro, and ROM like the 0 and 1 have the wired legs, and the ROM 3 is just the replaceable SAF battery. So that's the easy one.
Who thinks? Why is that a good idea? Like I don't understand how anybody could have thought like, okay,
it's wired on it and wired in.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's not like it'll ever fail. Right.
Carrington, didn't you say once? I seem to remember you believing or saying that you believed that the SE was more safe capacitor.
Yeah, the SE30 is popcorn. It's the one that everybody wants, but also seems to be very explodey.
Yeah.
But I had an SE as a kid, so screw you, SE30 people. You're getting your comeuppance now.
That's right.
Yeah.
My slow machine still works.
I'm not jealous.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we will see how all this develops. Oh, and I guess also things I've been doing, I've been editing old episodes. So this is getting to the.
We thank you.
Yeah, I think
We thank you.
Today, like the day we are recording this, I believe 2:30 should be going onto the feed. So only what, like 3 episodes behind, but any minute.
For those
now.
at home, Paul does all the actual work on the show. The rest of us just show up and
That's
talk.
right.
So
That's exactly true. So
soon I'll be caught up though. So the moral the moral is don't move.
well, Paul only does all the work because he's the one that has nothing but free time, right?
That's right.
So
yes.
Since he left employment behind, he just free time and blue skies, right?
He fights crime at night and edits podcasts during the day. It's a good lifestyle.
That's right.
Oh, I did start watching Invincible. I've now seen a few of those.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
I dig it.
I haven't checked it out.
Goes to dark places. It's good.
Okay. Anyway, I guess that's probably good enough. I have to find my show notes document though, so I know how to read the part that I've read 200 times before. Where are you, show notes document? Okay, here we are.
I'm ready to dance.
Okay, I'm gonna hide that window then. I'll put you over here. So that's it for this show. You can find the show notes for this and all the RCR shows at rcrpodcast.com. You can discuss the show in the forums at bcfed.org/forum/forum.php. You can follow RCR on Twitter. I'm just imagining you dancing in the other window.
I'm living in your head rent free now.
Right. You can follow RCR on Twitter at RCR Podcast. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/RCR Podcast. You can send feedback to feedback@rcrpodcast.com, and we will probably get to it at some point in the near future. We are a member of the Throwback Network at throwbackreviews.com. Please write a review on iTunes. That will help other people find the show, we think. And until next time,
Retro compute.
All right. Thumbs up. Cool. All right. That was not bad. Not too many hours.
No.
It was 2
hours. Yep. Yeah. Turning 6. We started a little bit after, so that was. This will give people time to breathe after the. Well, I guess there's others in between, but I was going to say after my Scandubler discussion. Yeah. Again, I had a dream about that actually. Yeah.
I suppose I didn't, but I could have, maybe sped it up and put little like yakety sax behind it as you talked.
That's what you should have done. I would have appreciated it. We all would have appreciated it. Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for everyone in the live show for listening. I appreciate that.
This time I did try advanced scheduling it, and I think it did kind of work. So
what does that mean? You said that several times. What do you mean by? Because I came into SteamYard and it said scheduled, and I didn't know what that meant. I assume that's what that means. But.
Yeah, it just means that we're claiming on YouTube that like the place is reserved on YouTube where this is going to show up, and we're claiming a time that we're going to start it. So
if someone hit this thing, like say you schedule it, say an hour before it starts or a day before it starts, you say scheduled. If someone goes there, will it be like, all right, this will start eventually, but here's something.
Yep.
So
exactly it just sits there saying pending.
If you're not sure what you're going to say, you can watch it then, and then find out what you eventually will say.
Gotcha.
But no, yes. Yeah, it's basically just a little countdown clock until the time you set. And the idea is that people can actually subscribe to that and get notified of that and reminded of that. That's cool. So
yeah, which I think is nice. We should do that for the listeners.
I will try to do that in the future because we've been reminded a couple of times that it would be convenient for us not to mention like, oh, we just started.
By the way, you're missing it. You're missing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Cool. So I guess we can say goodbye to YouTube. Goodbye, YouTube. Thank you.
Bye, YouTube.